Hello there and welcome to another Stationeers tutorial. I'm Maddie here from the Stationeers dev team, and I'm super excited to bring to you today the new step sequencer, which is part of the Music Machines kit. So you'll notice we've got a beautiful room here for our station dance parties, but the real business is happening back in here. So these are all the machines that are making all those cool sounds you're hearing in here. We've got something here that's playing some bass, we've got some drums, some more bass, some more drums, and some synth. So a quick overview of what these things are. This is the Logic step sequencer, and this is kind of the heart of the machine. We can set how fast we want to play through the sequence of 8 notes that we are inputting into it, and we input them via these screw settings here, and these correspond to these guys, these step units. So this is the container for pitch, which is the note on the piano, if you like to think of it that way, and these numbers correspond to general MIDI. And pitch can go all the way from C-2 all the way up to G8. You can hold down C here to switch, go up and down the octave, or otherwise just normal tuning it just adjusts it by semitone. I'm not sure what that started out as, probably a C realistically. And then over here we can see how fast we want it to play. That's actually pretty cool too. This is whether we want the notes to fade in or fade out, so that's the attack and the release. Over here we can change what instrument we want to use. Well, that's pretty groovy too. So we're selecting different instruments in this cartridge here. We could pull this cartridge out and pop in a different cartridge for a different selection of sounds. So over in here we've got the bass cartridge, so these are all different bass sounds. And I think that's a pretty cool addition. We're just going to leave it like that. So I think now we will hop back in time and we'll see how all this is set up. This is a cool groove, I love it. Alright, so here's all the stuff we're going to need to put together a music machine. The most important thing, item kit music machines. You can make these in the electronics printer, and this item kit makes all the bits and pieces you need to set up the sequencer. So let's open this up and see what we've got in here. We've got a step unit, which is basically a container for volume and pitch data. We've got the sequencer itself. This is the thing that reads the volume and pitch data from the step units and then plays the sounds, or rather sends a signal to play the sounds. We've got a stopwatch here. This thing provides a time input to the sequencer, and it might generally be useful for other parts of your Logic setup as well. The speaker. This is where the sounds come out of. We've also got an LFO here, which is a way of adding of modulating the volume of your sounds. So first thing we're going to do is build a sequencer. As a general kind of rule of thumb, you want about three large grids to build one of these guys. So let's pop them down there. You'll notice there's a data input over here, another data input over here, power up the top. So what I've done is I've run power around the top of the room and data around the bottom. So we've got this one, and then we're going to need 8 step units for each of these step unit inputs here. Pop them down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. Now, there's 2 data networks on this thing for a good reason, and that is that it's quite nice to be able to firewall off these step units from the rest of your logic network, so you don't end up with tons and tons of stuff on the network. So as a result, for this to be able to read the step units, they've got to go into this data port here. So we're just going to hook those up now. And we can go ahead, and then we're going to label them so that we know which ones to set where. We're just going to call this one 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Cool. If you didn't know, there's a handy trick for turning stuff on and off again. Right mouse button. Makes my day every time I use it. Okay, and now we're going to assign the inputs to the step sequencer. So let's set this up. So 1 to 1, 3 to 3, 4 to 4, 5 to 5, etc. So this means when the step sequencer wants to play step number 8, it's going to read the note and the volume or the pitch from here. Cool. Now we're almost there. We need to sort out power for all our units, so yes, let's do that. Right, and then we're also going to need to sort out an output. So for that, we're going to need a speaker. So we're going to set up, we've got one out in the big room, we're going to set up one in here just for our general testing. We'll pop it over here so we get the music machines, and we're going to cycle through to a passive speaker, and we'll just plonk him on the floor over here for now. Oh, that's cheating. I should do it properly. Cool. Let's assign. We need to hook up this. So this the speaker needs to be on this logic network here, and we can go and assign that now. So that's on the main room. This is this one over here. So we've almost got everything we need. The last thing we need to do is find a way of writing time and the beats per minute to our sequencer. So what we're going to do is set up a thing over here to do that. Let's grab, we're going to need you, we're going to need you, and you, and we don't need that. Okay. So let's start with a stopwatch. We got here on off, which resets the stopwatch, start counting and pause counting. So let's hook that up to our power. Cool. And then we'll take the output, that, and we're going to grab that one. we're going to need a batch writer. So this is going to write time to all of our sequences. Currently we only have one, but I think we'll probably end up with a couple by the end of this. Let's bring this down here. Get a screwdriver out. Okay, continue on. So that's counting the time. So the input's going to be the stopwatch. The output is going to be logic step sequences, so all our step sequences, and we're going to output to time. Oh, and it needs some power. Let's come over here and see. And it looks like that's receiving time. Great. The next thing we want to do is sort out our writing BPM. So we're going to do a similar thing over here with our... Oh, it's already in my inventory. I'm going to grab the logic switch, but we're not going to use a switch. We're going to use the dial like that. So dial is going to go into another batch writer. And we're going to take the input from the dial, output to step sequences, and output this time to beats per minute. And we're going to set the maximum on this to 180, I guess. The minimum, we can't see the minimum, that's fine. And then set that to something sensible. 120 for now. Turn that on. Needs power. Doop-doo. Is that written BPM? Yes. Cool. So we're sending time, we're sending BPM. The last thing we need is a cartridge. So that decides what kind of sound we're going to play. So let's just spawn in all the different cartridges. You can build these at the electronics printer as well. Got a bass. These are called sound cartridges. Sound cartridge drums. Sound cartridge leads. And sound cartridge synth. And for starters, how about we grab the drums? Pop that in. Cool, it's not flashing an error, everything's set up. The last thing we need to do, turn these guys on. And start the stopwatch. And activate. Let's choose a different sound. That's a bit quite like the smooth bass for now. Okay. Yeah, so you can cycle different types of sounds from the cartridge by clicking these arrows here. And this is how fast the sequence plays back. So this would be every beat, play a note. This is a quarter note, eighth note, 16th notes. So what we are at now, a quarter note is considered to be one beat, so we're playing 120 quarter notes per minute. You'll notice there's a bit of a click at the end. That's because our release here is set all the way down to 0, so we can bump that up a bit. And this is in milliseconds, so this is how long the note takes to fade out. So that makes it a little bit smoother there, which is nice. And how about we just write a little bass riff now? You can drop down the octave, so currently we're on a C3, we can drop down to a C2 by holding down C, we can go down an octave, or we can just move it in semitone increments.
Hydration critical.
Oh, better have a drink, eh? Ah, so refreshing. And we're just going to go in here and turn this off. Okay, right. So a nice way of kind of getting a feel for what you're writing, rather than running the sequencer, you can do, but you can also just push these buttons here and hear what sound it's going to be. So that's a sort of a faster way of sometimes programming. So let's do this. Let's make something a bit grungy. We're going to turn that one off, we're not going to play a note here. Then F. Maybe we go boom boom boom. Yeah, F2. Alright, let's have a listen to that. Cool, that's the basics of a sequencer. So what we might do is just bump that up, so we give a bit of an emphasis on the downbeat. Maybe this one as well. And this one. We can go ahead and send that out into the main room. Cool, so that's your basic sequencer. What I'm going to do now is add a few more bits and pieces in, and we might speed up the video for that. Alright, we've set up a new sequencer here. We're going to put some drums on this one, but I just need to make sure it's got the correct BPM over here. Cool, now it's reading 120. Alright, so we've got a sound cartridge drums. Let's pop that in here. Now drums operate a little bit differently to basses or other melodic instruments, in that each pitch tone here is a separate drum sound, but we can still flick between different types of kits. So for starters, why don't we get this electro drums kit, because that's kind of fun. The other thing to note with drums is the sound starts at C0, so that's the first note, and C0 is normally the bottom kick. So we can kind of put something interesting together here. drum beat, sick bass beat. I think we're getting somewhere with this little composition. The next thing I want to do is a kind of a pulsing element. So for that, I'm actually going to go over and make a probably another bass sequencer setup. So we'll speed it up here again. Alright, so the first thing you'll notice that's different about this setup is I've only used 4-step units, and that's because I'm going to make a little kind of pulsing line that's going to run a lot slower speed. So currently I've got my drums here running at 1/8 notes, and my bass is running at 1/4 notes. So this pulsing thing is going to run at whole notes. So every 4 beats it's going to play the next step. So what I'm going to do is assign 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go back to the start again. 1, 2, maybe we'll be a little cheeky and go 4, 3, maybe 4, 2. Right, so it's going to go boom, 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 and then boom, 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 boom. Oh, boom, 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 boom. Right, cool. And then we need to pop a sound cartridge in there. I'm going to grab another bass. And then the next thing I'm going to do is, well, that was interesting, make an LFO unit. So there's this guy over here. So we're going to set the output of this to the LFO. I'm going to set the output of the LFO to our speaker over there. This is kind of like this one in that it needs to know where it is in order to be in time. So notice I can set the speed of the LFO, so it basically evaluates this waveform at a certain time and creates a pulse. So I'm going to need to set the time and the BPM on this as well. So I'm going to need to extend my logic setup over here to do that. So let's just grab. Boop. Okay, so this is taking the input from the stopwatch and it is writing to the device LFO volume, and we're going to write time. Awesome. And then this one is going to take the input from the dial. It's going to write to the LFO volume, and we're going to write beats per minute. Cool, we're all set. So in theory, we need to pick some notes for this to play. Let's just try running up the scale for starters. See how that sounds. Let's see, D sharp, E flat, F. Turn this one on. Cool. What does that sound like with the rest of it, I wonder? to try next is another one of these. Oh, not like that, I'm not. And this is just going to play kicks on the one beat. Cool. What if we set this to quarter notes as well, but we're going to change the waveform to that one? I think that's a good one. I think that's pretty cool. We can change how much this adjusts the waveform by changing intensity. So the more intensity, the more of this waveform that applies to the sound. I think maybe around here is pretty good for this. How does that blend with the bass? I think that kicks a bit anemic. Let's find a different one for that maybe. Yeah, pulling all the way up. If we make this like super low. Nah, that's a bit too low. What are we using here at the moment? We're using dark bass. We use blocky bass maybe. I feel like that blends better. Cool. I think the last thing we need is maybe some sort of melodic element to kind of fill this out. So, 200 I do for now. Oh, I forgot about my drums. Let's hear all that together. It's actually sounding pretty good. Okay, so the last thing I want is sort of maybe something a bit high and pingy. So for that, I'm going to turn to my trusty. Maybe try leads or synth. Not sure yet. I'm gonna have space for this to do something a bit janky. All right. Alright, got our last sequencer set up over here. I'm going to pop in a synth cartridge. I'm also going to build a wall over here, because as much as I like the sounds of my batch writers ticking away, they do get a little bit noisy after a while. Yeah, that's a bit better. Okay, now let's see what kind of sounds we've got here. Sweeper? I think that's a fun one. I reckon we could do something with that. Alright, let's get everything rolling and sort of see what we could do to fill out this little Alright, let's pipe that all through the main room. Oh, my bad. Need to outpipe this one into the main room. Very nice. That's a bit more interesting than this down in the soup breathing. So yeah, that's the logic step sequences. I hope you enjoyed your musical time with me today, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what people are going to go out and create with these exciting new